Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Guy. Well, we got a fair amount to go over today, from the APP to Sam Cooper to the American ambassador, just really slapping some reality into Vashi Capella on CTV, the propaganda network. And actually, we got a whole lot more. So let's just kind of dive right in. We'll start off with the APP has filed for the referendum. So breaking, Mitch Sylvester filed its independent referendum petition application, Edmonton, Alberta, at 3:30 p.m. on May 23rd, 2025, on behalf of the APP. The ball is rolling. We had this report dropped. This was pretty wild. So they had a briefing that was dropped off. Where am I here? Full screen. Dropped off to the minister. The RCMP warning that a 488% jump in tea-related charges. Absolutely crazy. The number of tea charges laid in Canada jumped 488% last year amid rising youth radicalization, the RCMP wrote to the Public Safety Minister. The RCMP's ministerial briefing binder posted on a government website this week saying violent extremism remain a prominent national security threat. Canadian police have foiled 6 tea plots in the last 12 months alone, with the rest spanning from Edmonton to Ottawa to Toronto. Between April 1st, 2023 and March 31st, 2024, 25 suspects were accused of 83 tea-related charges, representing a 488% increase. Like, that is absolutely crazy. So it was released publicly on Wednesday after Prime Minister Mark Carney handed the public safety portfolio over to Liberal MP Gary Andrasky. I can never say his name right. He's an idiot anyways. Briefing binders are supposed to inform cabinet ministers about the priorities, challenges, and workings of the department. Now, the RCMP package identified violent extremism as a hot issue, along with foreign interference, hate crimes, and the Canada-US border and opioids. Everything that the media has been hiding from you are the main concerns of the RCMP. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so that a lot of these people who voted Liberal and have their heads stuffed so far into the propaganda bubble can get some facts. Sorry, just the facts. Moving right along, this was quite interesting. A little bit of the math doesn't quite add up. I think the Liberal stands out like a sore thumb. Take a listen.
In the border town of St. Stephen, the once steady stream of cross-border shoppers from Maine has slowed down to a trickle.
They used to come over every Friday, Saturday. They do their shopping, groceries over here and everything, and they're not coming over now. So we had to bump up our prices, and we have to close 2 days a week because of no sales.
The town mayor says efforts are underway within the National Border Mayors Alliance to secure tariff relief or government grants, but results have been slow to come.
We are totally relying on the movement of people and product. Being a border community, that is exactly what we are. So we need that traffic. It was 70,000 less for last month just recorded.
Despite cross-border tensions, one
that
local
is a huge amount of people. A huge amount of people. So yes, completely down to a trickle.
bakery reports rising sales, up 15%, crediting a renewed focus on Canadian-made products and increased cross-border loyalty.
Business has not really dropped, it's kind of increased, and there's been kind of an influx of Americans who just across the border come here every day, and a lot of them actually apologize for this whole tariff thing. They claim it wasn't their fault. They claim they didn't work for that. They didn't vote for that. They've been like extremely nice about it.
Now, I'm sorry for that. I have to call BS. If it's down to a trickle and 70-some thousand people less than normal, what, he's got a 15% increase in business of Americans? I'm sorry. I don't believe that. Yeah, it makes no sense mathematically, especially if the rest of the town is suffering. I think, like this lady says, a lot of it has to do with locals coming through. I'm not sure. I'm not calling the guy a liar, but math don't lie, and I think the Liberal right there just stood out. I think he's trying to be positive and kind of giving a little bit of a white lie, or whatever you want to call it. But this isn't good.
Shelley says with import prices climbing, they have switched to sourcing everything locally. One cafe owner says it's still early to judge how the summer will go, but she's hopeful border towns on both sides can keep the close connection they've always shared.
We're hopeful that our costs don't continue to rise at the rate that they're rising, just because groceries and things are so expensive right now. And we also hope that the small communities along the border like us are able to keep fighting and support each other, even though times are difficult right now.
Preeti Meenakshi.
So, I have a lot of different social media accounts. One of them in particular, I get a lot of comments from Americans. I've had videos, and it's TikTok, by the way, where some of my videos are well over 80,000, and a lot of the ones that I get, and it's mostly from the Eastern Americans. They say that generations of their American families have always talked about how great Canadians are. Like, they're the only people who apologize for their own happiness, or like they're always apologizing, and we are, sorry, just the facts. But they've said in the last 6 months, what they've seen, and like I said, this is all coming out of like from the Eastern Americans that are followers and watch my videos on TikTok. How Canadians have just completely flipped. They are the meanest. This is such an insult. It's just such an insult. And it really goes to show, it's just another kind of an obvious point on why the West wants out. I don't think a lot of, especially out east, I don't think the Eastern Canadians understand that it's not that the West wants to leave Canada. Canada's left the West. The propaganda is so controlling out there. And now, obviously, it's not all of the Easterners. And I like to say, for the most part, even for those that ended up voting Liberal, most of them just don't know better, because they're busy, they get home, they click on propaganda, they think that it's real news, and they don't know any better. And that's why I need you to like, share, and subscribe and get the word out there, because if they don't see the truth, if they don't actually have the facts in front of them, which I post all my links below, I always have, I've made it, I swore when I started this channel, that's why I started it, was to just stop the spread of misinformation and lies, try to end the propaganda. And I think if more people were to see that, they'd come back to their senses. But they've allowed this, and it started off with the Freedom Convoy. Globally, around the world, the world saw Canada eat itself alive by propaganda. I think the Freedom Convoy woke up more people outside of the world about how bad mainstream media is than in Canada, because there isn't a lot of alternatives, and with the censorship laws coming in, it's making it harder and harder and harder for people to find real good independent media. And I know for myself, like I had said on previous episodes, I actually had some downtime because I was getting censored hardcore. They weren't necessarily deplatforming me, but they were definitely trying really hard. They were cutting my algorithms back. I got it all straightened away now, so I will be creating a members class where certain videos and stuff, you'll have to be a member in order to watch. I haven't started it yet. I'm trying to keep the cost down and try to keep. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted the shares. I wanted to grow my numbers fast so that I could actually try to make an income off of just this, so that people could have free news. But obviously with the Canadian censorship laws, which pretty much was straightened right out to me by YouTube, I'm going to have to do that in order to put truth to light, because there's certain things that Canada doesn't want me talking about. So anyways, back to the whole Eastern Canadians that aren't really Canadians. Really, come on, man. If it's an American plate, don't flip them the bird. Don't be ignorant to them. And like I said, I know it's not all of you out there, but it's enough of you that I'm getting hundreds upon hundreds of Americans from the, like I said, the eastern part of America that are just they shake their heads. They like, I'm not coming up there ever again. I don't care how low your dollar is. Why would I come up there to be treated that way? And that's really sad to hear. It's just really sad to hear. Anyways, moving right along. Sam, first, you know what? Let's dabble on this this guy who wakes up to find a container ship in his garden. Now, I know it's not Canadian, but it is quite hilarious.
Now, these are pictures worth seeing, Jackie. You haven't seen them yet,
I haven't seen them yet, no.
Take a look at this. It's a man in Norway who woke up to find a cargo ship in his backyard. That's quite close, isn't it? 135-metre long vessel.
It just missed his house. Like, that is wild.
The ground off Bindset. I'm not sure if I've said that right. It ended up just a few metres from where Johan Helbert was sleeping. Well, despite the size of it, he didn't actually hear it come ashore, and instead he had to be woken up by a neighbour.
The doorbell rang at a time when I don't really like opening the door. I like to go back to sleep, but it was a very insistent ring, so I finally went to answer it. And there's a guy I know standing there, looking at me in amazement saying, "Have you not seen the ship?" But I hadn't, so I went to the window and saw this.
That's pretty wild, hey? Okay, moving on. Sam Cooper. Best journalist in Canada, by the way.
I really want to bring you on because so much of what you have been writing about and warning about has come full circle here with Kash Patel, FBI Director Kash Patel's latest warning. I'm just going to read you a quote. He is not happy with Canada. So even though maybe Trump is warming up to Carney, Kash Patel's not happy. He says, quote, and this was in an interview with Maria Bartiromo on Fox, he says, "I don't care about getting into this debate of making someone the 51st state or not. They are our partner in the North, and say what you want about Mexico, but they helped us seal the southern border." So he's happy with Mexico, but says Canada is still a big source of concern when it comes to fentanyl coming into the U.S. He is not happy with Canada.
Absolutely, and I know you had a discussion recently with an expert that pointed to that lab in British Columbia, the biggest known super lab in history now. That's in Falkland. Danielle,
Now, wouldn't it be nice if the mainstream media talked about this? There's been nothing on mainstream, nothing on Legacy, because they don't want Canadians to know the truth. That is the largest super lab ever found. Can you imagine? No air, no information to Canadians. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
Reported within the past couple of weeks that my sources indicated that there are Mexican cartels, sanctioned Chinese precursor suppliers, and Iranian threat networks connected to that lab. So as you know, I'm the leader on this file in North America. Look, I reported this is a Chinese Communist Party, Mexican cartel, and Iranian terror network threat in Canada. And this is exactly what Mr. Patel came out and said. So again, I'll call it 100% confirmation of the explosive stories I've been breaking over the past few months. There was another one I broke in Toronto. You remember the horrific shooting on Danforth in 2018?
Yes.
Now listen carefully to this, because if you remember about it, mainstream went out of their way to say how it was not tea related at all. And this happened with another case as well, the one in Edmonton that happened a few years back, with the officer the guy was trying to get at his gun while he was shanking him. And I can't believe Canadians stood around and filmed it. They didn't help. That's just, it's so embarrassing. He actually had an ICIS flag in his van, and mainstream, oh no, it had, and they tried to hush it up. The second it came out, they tried to hush it up. They didn't want anybody relating this to the T word. That is a complete disregard of their job. This is how you hold your governments to account, is you allow the people to see the reality of what is happening in their country because of horrible leadership. Listen carefully, because this is people need to know this.
It was denied that there were terror links. I broke a story within the past 2 weeks of a high-level former DEA Special Operations Division leader saying, look, we didn't believe Canada that there were no terror links. The U.S. government found intelligence indicating threat networks in Pakistan. There were concerns that it could have been linked to the shooter, was a property where 40 kilograms of carfentanil was seized. Some in the U.S. government had concerns this could be linked to a weapon of mass destruction. And the short part of the answer and story is the U.S. government asked to have a few grams of that seizure. They wanted to know, did it connect to any of their seizures on the near Atlanta or terror networks? And the RCMP shut them down.
They shut them down. Now remember, most undemocratic country in the world. Everything is appointed. That came from the top down. That came from a federal appointed representative to the RCMP. These are all appointed, and everybody down the rest of the food chain all have to follow and listen. Yes, sir. This is sad.
So I've been reporting over and over again that the U.S. government is very frustrated. They believe at a political level in Ottawa is not cooperating on these crucial investigations. And I believe that's what we heard again from Kash Patel. And let me just frame it. He said the Chinese Communist Party is using Canada together with Mexican cartels and Iranian networks to threaten the U.S.
I mean, he just came out and said it. So the question is, what is Trump going to do with that information now?
You know, that's where the confusion comes in, because he did appear to be very friendly in a way to Mark Carney's election chances. So what's going on behind the scenes? And as you said, you know, there seemed to be a détente in Washington, even though Prime Minister Carney was playing the meek party there.
Now, this is definitely a little bit of a going concern, especially with what the alphabet squads down in the States, the DEA and, ATF and all the rest of them, what they're seeing here in Canada. And Sam Cooper, like, I'm a big fan. I'm on his mailing list. This guy is so far ahead of the curve. He's left mainstream. They're standing 6 hills behind a mountain, drowning in the water behind this guy's journalism. And it's really sad that more Canadians aren't privy to this, that they're not aware of what's really going on. Now, we're going to fast forward a little wee bit. As always, I post everything in the bottom. I try my hardest to never just take somebody's clip. And even when I do, I research it and I fact check everything. I spent hours upon hours making these episodes. Fact checking is a huge part. It's 99% of it. I don't report on it unless it's true. Sorry, just the facts. So you can watch this full episode, and I urge you to, because of course it's Sam Cooper. Anything with Sam Cooper, watch it. The guy is, like I said, he's the best investigative journalist in Canadian history.
We also know, like, isn't Freeland's child like godparent Carney, or there's some relation there, but the point is that they're just so cozy with each other and just keep carving out positions for each other.
Now, this is something that I'd mentioned on previous episodes. This is actually a hypothesis that I had, and I like I said, I had mentioned it in previous episodes. And if you're a new subscriber, I urge you, please go through and check out my previous episodes. You will find a lot of great stuff and a lot of breaking stories that, like, literally I broke some great stories, and I was either the second or third person to report on other really good breaking stories, like the Paul Chang story. But it's nice to hear Sam come out and repeat what my kind of hypothesis was about the election and Carney's appointment.
As someone
Freeland,
said,
just the worst finance minister in the Canadian history.
And obviously not liked by President Trump. But, you point to something very interesting. If you'll recall that Justin Trudeau was still in power, and then Miss Freeland was asked to put forward a budget that she didn't want to do. And then something very strange happens behind the scenes where Justin Trudeau believes she's going to step out and Mark Carney is going to step in. And it looks like something tricky might have happened between Freeland and Carney in that sort of maneuvering. Justin Trudeau appeared, confused and betrayed. And what do you know? We now have a Prime Minister Carney so I think there's more stories to be in terms of the horse trading that might have happened for people on let's just call it a very interesting shuffle of the cabinet.
Now, and I agree exactly with what he's saying. Trudeau's got an IQ of 86. He was used as a poster boy. He was just a private in the army. Now, for those of you that don't know, most of my subscribers do know, the WEF came right out, and they bragged about the fact that how more than 50% of the Liberal Party who were sitting in Parliament had been infiltrated by the WEF. Now, there's a lot smarter people pretty much everybody, almost everybody. There's probably 2 or 3 that are very low IQ like Trudeau, but for the most part, all of them are smarter than Trudeau. Trudeau was used just because of his name, and he was very easy to convince into all of the lies that he was trying to spread. He's, like I said, he's just a poster boy with no IQ. So my belief is that they used him, and when his usefulness ran out and they realized they couldn't hide how dumb the guy really was anymore, they put their general into place, and it was a coup d'etat. And there were more people involved in this, I believe, than just Chrystia Freeland. Like I said, over 50% of the cabinet had been infiltrated by the WF. If you actually go to the WF site, you can see this. And there's a lot of great independent media out there who have done complete episodes, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 episodes, breaking this all down. They're not Canadian. These people are globalists. So when somebody says globalism is great, I'm Canadian, they're not Canadian if they're a globalist, because you can't be proud of your country and try to push your jobs, your income, and everything about you to another nation. People fled to Canada to get out of these countries. So to sit down and allow the UN to tell us what to do, I'm sorry. No, it don't work. So I agree. I think Sam Crew, and like I said, I'm glad he said it, because it just confers that if he's seeing that, then I'm definitely on the right track. Because like I said, this guy is so far ahead of the curve. It's crazy. Now we're gonna speed ahead here to a little bit further. So Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms has released this. In the breaking news, the Federal Court of Appeal has directed that the challenge to former Prime Minister Trudeau's decision to prorogue Parliament for 11 weeks will go to a full hearing. The court will not preliminarily dismiss the challenge on the issue of muteness. That issue will be decided at a full hearing. Now, obviously, there's nothing they can really do about it, which is really sad. Really sad. The election would have been completely different, but the WEF knows they study countries' systems and their laws, and they have big dollars. We're the richest people on the planet, and they use these studies to figure ways in order to manipulate systems to achieve their goals. They literally pay to outsmart countries in their own democracy and break them down to destroy them, to take power, which is what we're seeing here in Canada. So nothing's going to be done. But at least if this goes through and the Constitutional Center for Freedom wins, it sets a precedent so that it can't happen again. There will be an easier and faster way to stop a prime minister from allowing democracy. And you can thank Jagmeet Singh and the NDP for this, because they allowed this to happen. They tried everything possible to remove democracy from the people with the help of the propaganda media. And I've seen this in Saskatchewan firsthand by our Democrat NDPs trying to lift the amount of signatures needed to stop the voices of Saskatchewanites from having their say. And this doesn't just fall on a referendum of separation. This falls on any law that, if was passed, the people wouldn't have the voice or be able to get their voice heard in order to change legislation. This is sad. This is a socialist party, the NDP. And like I keep saying, the new Liberals, because this isn't the Liberal Party of the past. These new Liberals, they're fascists. It's out of control. Absolutely out of control. So moving on, this U.S. ambassador, this is absolutely hilarious. He just keeps hitting truth to truth to truth to Vashi. Let's just play it out. This is priceless.
Face of it, do you think it would be a good thing for Canada to participate in?
So she's talking about the Golden Dome.
Well, I mean, we've had NORAD since 1958. I think that's worked pretty well for the U.S. and it's worked well for Canada. It's, I think, one of the only, if not the only, bilateral military relationship in the world. So I think it would. But I mean, there's criteria. Okay, and some of those criteria are being questioned right now. One of the criteria for NORAD is interchangeability and interoperability. So that would mean that, we're flying the same kinds of planes, we're using the parts, and it's all interchangeable and it's one system. Canada is challenging that. They'd made a decision to buy F-35s. That's now up for review. If Canadians are flying one airplane, we're flying another airplane. It's no longer interchangeable, and so that might even threaten NORAD without talking about new alliances that promise even more security and safety to our people.
Is it your view that that NORAD is under threat?
Well, if Canada decides to buy equipment and those types of things that no longer are interoperable with America, it means that that's one of the fundamental agreements of NORAD. And if Canada can do what it wants, and if it decides to move in a different direction, we would have to have some kind of a discussion on NORAD. Yeah.
Are those discussions? Are you part of any of those discussions at this point?
No, not at this point, because Canada hasn't made a decision on the F-35. They're just saying we're going to go back and reevaluate it, and I think at that point in time, it'll be important for the U.S. to point out, wait a minute, this is a fundamental basis for NORAD. Okay, and those discussions are not going on. The Prime Minister has indicated that some of these things are under review, and as I've said multiple times, when people ask me about the Prime Minister and where he's going and what he's doing, it's kind of like, let's give him some time to actually announce that. Let's wait for the, for the speech from the throne, which happens in, 5-6 days?
Yeah.
Exciting time for Canada. The King is coming. The King of Canada is coming. And, we will hear the speech from the throne. We will hear more about the exact agenda.
The King of Canada is coming. Welcome back to the monarchy, Canada. Oh boy, just one more poke at the Western Bear to leave. Nobody should be born above somebody else. No color, no creed, no religion is better than anybody else. What an embarrassment this Liberal Party is. We're going to fast forward a little wee bit here.
Do you think, I guess I would respectfully challenge, why would we believe that to be true when the United States initially are the ones who put extra tariffs? I'm not disagreeing with your point that free trade feels a little hard to believe when there are so many tariffs that were already in place on both sides. But there are additional tariffs that were levied by this administration.
So this started off with him years ago when the whole idea first came of free trade. How he was like, well, this is great. So when he was like gonna get all the documentation for it, he was expecting it to be like one piece of paper saying how we're gonna have free trade. And he got this great big frickin' binder right full, and all it was a finer tuned tariffing system, and he was just in shock. How do you call this free trade? Which is how I feel, and so many other people that I know. It's like, Why do we keep calling this free trade? It's not free trade if there's tariffs involved. You don't say it's free entry, but you have to buy a drink. No, then it's not free entry. So you should advertise it as such. There should be, truth in advertising, like truth in media, which there isn't out there. So like, share, and subscribe.
That are in no way buttressing the idea of free trade.
Government of Canada Trade Commissioner Service, understanding the CUSMA compliant. 99.9% of products, we call it USMCA, trade coming south from Canada to the U.S. 99.9%, according to a Canadian government agency, is tariff-free today.
But that's not everything. That is, for example, that first there were tariffs levied on everything. Then it just stayed on steel and aluminum. Then if it was CUSMA or USMCA compliant, there was a 90-day reprieve. It's not as simple as you portray it at this moment in time. There are still distinct tariffs that are in place that run counter to the idea of free trade.
This is the Canadians saying this. This is not the U.S. State Department. This is not the U.S. government. I have trouble believing that number sometimes, right? But this is the Canadian government saying that that's the amount of because, there's been bounces back and forth, all right?
Okay, so this is what I've been saying, and actually his number is a little bit wrong, and he's cherry-picked a study, so he's a little bit out. But it's like 89.95%. Okay, of everything that goes down to the States. And that's that you got to judge the numbers by, not necessarily. Okay, so he's correct in saying that if you were to list every single product, of all of those products, 99.9% of them that America brings in, they don't tariff on. But if you actually take a look at and break down the percentages of it, so I mean, if you sell 5 widgets from, let's say, Montreal, and you sell 5,000 cars, that kind of skews the numbers. So of all of the products, yes, 99.9% of them are tariff-free. But that doesn't deal with the actual percentage of quantity that's going down there, which is, like I said, it's 87.9 or 89.9, somewhere in there. And there's, of course, all different types of, everybody's kind of got their own. Now, if you listen to the Liberals, they say, 100%, because that's what the media keeps putting out there. And this is something I've been telling people for months on end. And again, everybody's losing their crap over this supposed, and it did happen, okay? So Carney did drop the tariffs the day before the debate. Now, I've been reporting on this. Now, he didn't actually run it through the Gazette in time, which is actually illegal. You're not supposed to do that. That's like totally against the Constitution. That's right against our parliamentary system. Everything has to be printed through there. As it's being enacted, like, it's got to be printed first so that the people are aware of what is to come. And he didn't do that. But I was reporting and showing and always putting it in the description, the tariffs. All of the pain and hurt you feel every time that they say tariffs on mainstream and throw Trump's name in there, that is a misrepresentation. It is misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. They are lying through their teeth to you. Canada is tariffing 25% on just about every damn product you can think of, from glasses to chicken to meat to cheese to footwear to you name it. There, that is Canada doing it to protect the auto industry, to stop the slow death that the Liberal Party is putting through. Again, previous episodes, I talk about this with the auto sector. If you're in the auto sector and you voted for the Liberals, you literally cut your own wrists. These people want to get rid of combustion engines. I knew this a long time ago, years ago. I was talking to friends about it. I have friends that work in the auto sector, their spouses work in the auto sector, and they didn't believe me. And I'm like, people, think, oh no, we're going to make electric cars. No, you're not, because Canada can't have electric cars. So he is right, even though his numbers are a little skewed. Like I said, he's using the total percentage of everything from the 1 or 5 widgets sold here to the 50,000 of a product sold there. So that's a little bit wrong. But he is correct. What you're feeling out of your pocketbook is 25% of Carney and the Liberals trying to hide the true effects of stopping the consumer carbon tax. They knew they had to put those in order to stop and watch the inflation plummet from their bad policies. This is all evil politics. This is man, people are so, again, it's propaganda. This is why I need you to like, share, and subscribe. People need to see this and realize this is a cover-up. It's embarrassing, and it's costing Canadians 25% on just about everything you buy that comes from the States. It's just, you can't make that stuff up. It's too funny.
But the bottom line, most, whether it's substantially tariff-free coming from Canada going into the United States. And there, because like you said, there is a 90-day reprieve. I think that ends in March, or excuse me, that ends in July, at which point in time we'll either have a new agreement, a framework to move forward, or, you know, we'll see what happens at that point in time. I'm thinking we're all hoping where there will be an agreement and a framework to move forward.
Do you think that possibility exists that soon?
Yes, absolutely.
Why?
Why? Yeah. We just got to try. We did a trade agreement with China. We have a framework. We have a framework trade agreement with China. We have a framework for a trade agreement with the UK. I was in the meeting, you know, where the two-part meeting. We had the scrum with the president and Carney, which I think they handled the 51st state issue. Boom, gone. They did it with a smile on their face, went and had lunch, and it's kind of like, okay, let's get to work. Okay, here are the kinds of issues that both of us have concerns about, but, you know, in this hour and a half that we're going to have lunch, we're going to lay the framework for our teams to come together and present an agreement to move forward. And I absolutely.
Why would Canadians trust that framework when there was an entire other agreement in place that your president then contravened on multiple instances?
Yeah, there's no doubt, okay? And I think you got to be very, very careful with the word trust. Okay.
His demeanor, he is so cool and collected. He's like, and he's not being ignorant. He's like just kind of laughing all of this off because he's trying to straighten out the propaganda machine. But this is priceless.
I spent a lot of time on our national security issues. Okay. At one time in 2014, NATO met. And every country in NATO unanimously committed and pledged to spend 2% of their GDP on national security. I don't have a question in terms of on a day in and day out basis, do I trust the Canadians? I believe we can trust the Canadians and we can work with the Canadians. Am I disappointed that they're well short of their commitment on NATO? The answer is yes, I am. They committed to that just like the U.S. and they haven't. But does that mean that I go home or I tell my colleagues in Washington, you can't trust the Canadians? No, that has not crossed my mind.
I think that's a fair point. I think I've interviewed countless
defense. Of course, it's a fair point.
No, I think I've interviewed countless defense ministers about our record on that and the fact that we have not met our commitments. Right. But this is your president signing an agreement and then contravening it himself, and in the meantime, in the interim, saying that he would use economic force to annex us. I think it would be almost naive of us to not at least raise the question of trust in moving forward in an economic partnership. Would it not?
That's a question that you can ask amongst Canadians. All right? But if you ask me, can Canada trust America? It's kind of like, yeah, I think so. I don't think so. I know so. All right? There's a deep history going back between our two countries. All right? We fought side by side on the beaches of Normandy. There are lots of Americans of Dutch descent who were liberated by Canadian troops, including my parents. No, I believe you can trust us. I trust Canada. Are there issues that need to be resolved in a constructive way that I think the President and the Prime Minister demonstrated a couple of weeks ago that they can move forward? Yeah, I think so. I'm confident they can.
Is the objective, just final question, is the objective from your vantage point that all tariffs on both sides are removed? Like, is that, I feel as though Canadians have not really got even a clear answer from the federal government. Like, what is the end goal of all of this? Is it to go back to what it was before tariffs?
Now, and again, this is something I've been talking about. And media has just blown this right up and lied and lied and lied. And I'm glad Vashi put that out there because he's going to straighten this out. Trump is a tariff president. He is going to put tariffs on. Now the question is how good can you negotiate a true free trade? He didn't come after Canada and tariff everything. That was a threat that needed to be met so that we could get to negotiations to a zero tariffs. But there are certain industries that he knows for national security he has to have. The biggest one is the steel and aluminum. Everybody thinks it's the auto, it's the steel and aluminum. And that has to deal with munitions and the military being able to build tanks, planes, and everything else from scratch in case there ever is a war. The auto industry is the spoon that is helping him because it's the union vote. And he also knows that all of these other countries are pushing a green agenda. He would be silly to not try and scoop up all of the auto industry and take it back to Canada. If you want to chase your green fantasy, I'm going to help you get there. Why? Because it's going to benefit America. People got to get this through their thick heads. He's not the world's president. He's America's president. America first. Everybody else can eat at the table later. And if you want to go with your loony bin green policies, you're just going to help him because he's going to be like the auto sector. The auto sector was already talking to him during his first presidency. Previous episodes, people. The auto sector was freaking out over this EV mandate. They were like, holy, we have billions of dollars locked up in Canada. We had signed these deals guaranteeing that we're going to do this. What are we going to do if they push this through? We're going to have to close these down. We're going to lose money. And yet now we got a Democratic Party who's running under the same principles and has been infiltrated by the same green cartel. What do? Trump was their savior. But Trump's also a businessman. He's like, well, that's a no-brainer. If they want to go down that route, let's help them. Let's push them a little bit quicker so they do it quicker. And then they'll realize, and when they do, it'll be too late. And then guess what? We'll have secured all of this industry, and he'll have secured the union vote, which the Democrats had stole away from the Republicans over the last 20 years. Brilliance. He's a businessman. Canada? Too much propaganda. Way too much propaganda. Now, hear him out, because he confirms this. The tariffs are going to be there. We may be able to lower them down and put ourselves in a better place than anybody else, but they're going to be there.
Well, the president has made it clear that there will probably be a tariff on every country that we do business with. Okay, I mean, he's campaigned on that and has said that. I think what I would hope that Canadians would be striving for is to lay out all the things that Canada has, the capability, critical minerals, automotive, energy. You go right down the list, things that we can work together on, defense, fentanyl, stopping the number of deaths in both of our countries from fentanyl.
I love it. Vashi, she swallows twice when he says fentanyl. I know she knows. She just doesn't do her job. Fentanyl is a huge issue, which I just pointed out with Sam Cooper. Like, come on, Canada. Come on. Mainstream is a joke. They're the reason we're in the problem. They are the reason we are in the mess we're in. And that goes for all government parties, because they drop all their morals to just be reporters, not journalists. They got to get back to journalism, asking hard questions, using your morals, your integrity to hold the people you're interviewing to account. That's your job. Politicians shouldn't want to go on your show. They should have to go on your show. There's a difference. And answer the hard questions. It's just...
that we can come together with a deal that gives Canada the lowest tariffs of any country that America negotiates an agreement with.
So not no tariffs, but the lowest.
The lowest.
Okay, and that's...
And if,
there it is. And there it is. The truth comes out. So we're gonna dabble on one. Actually, I've got a little clip here at the end. I just wanted to show of a cop car getting hit by lightning. But first, I want to discuss this. This is Canada. This is an absolute disgrace. Once again, this is the policing and the RCMP. This is beyond embarrassing. So there is a walk that they have every year. The Jewish are involved in. And the Toronto police have released this about it. Listen carefully.
This Sunday, the United Jewish Appeal will hold its annual Walk with Israel, a permitted 3.9-kilometer walk and family festival at Sherman campus. This is the event's 56th year, and our expectation is that it will proceed safely and without disruption. We are aware of plans by some individuals to interfere with the event. I want to speak directly to those concerned about public safety and clarify the role of police. Our top priority is the safety and security of everyone. Toronto Police will have a strong presence in and around the event, supported by policing partners from York, Durham, Peel, and the OPP. You'll see officers on foot and on bicycles patrolling surrounding neighborhoods. This is to ensure community safety beyond the main event site and respond quickly to any concerns that may arise. We continue to uphold the right to peaceful assembly and expression, but intimidation, harassment, hate speech, or criminal behavior will not be tolerated. Anyone engaging in criminal activity can expect to be arrested. There will be a designated area for protest, which is intended to reduce tensions and help avoid confrontations. We encourage open communication between organizers, demonstrators, and police throughout the day, and we ask that everyone follow officers' directions and report any concerns. Officers are there to protect your rights and safety. We are committed to maintaining public order, enforcing the law, and ensuring that everyone can exercise their rights lawfully and without fear.
Now, this post has gone viral on different social media forums because we all know, because we're witnessing firsthand, the calls for genocide that happen on the streets across Canada daily from these pro-Hamas supporters and backed by our pro-Hamas government. It's just a complete abomination of Canadianism. And now I'm going to show you just a little clip, and this is just one of them, okay? So you can counter-protest the Jews, but you can't counter-protest Hamas in Canada. And I've shown many of these different videos, and this is just another one. One Jewish protester shows up. He's not being violent. He's counter-protesting away from the crowd. There are constantly journalists that are there that the police are harassing and allowing the Hamas to spit on, elbow, push, call nasty names. The police go after the journalists. They don't go after Hamas. They don't stop them from burning Canadian flags. They don't stop them for calling for Antifa. They don't, or Antifada. They don't. The things these people are allowed to say and do on the streets is despicable. But now they're going to go out and they're going to broadcast themselves saying that they're going to protect and they're going to be there for this 56th anniversary walk that the Jewish people do. But pretty much call out and say, if you're an anti-protester, you can come on down and we're going to give you a designated area. And they literally arrested this Jewish person, this Israelite. Listen to him cheering. Listen to the Palestinians. Listen to them. They're not Palestinian. These are Hamas. Listen to them. This is going on every day, people. Every day. But no. Take the peaceful Jew who's trying to get the police to acknowledge what these people are saying. And the police shrug it off. Oh, it's Canada. You're allowed to protest. But yet we're putting censorship laws in on these new platforms to stop hate speech. No, they're not. They're doing it to stop people like me. Like these journalists. Karima. And there's a whole bunch of them that are out there that are constantly trying to get this news out. Natasha Montreal. Rebel News. Great journalism. Great journalists out there trying to do their job. So, yeah. Canada is just... this is definitely not the same place that all the generations of my family grew up watching, and we talk about it often. It's really become an embarrassment. And like I said, it's not that we have become anti-Canadian. We've watched Canada become anti-Canadian by allowing this to happen. Evil begets evil, people. Evil begets evil. Now let's finish it off with this great video. This is really wild. and the cop says it too. He says a lightning bolt strikes an Oklahoma police cruiser and the blinding moment is caught on camera. No one was hurt, but the officers warn that could have been anyone as powerful storms race across the central U.S. Like, absolutely watch this footage. Oh, ho, ho! Wow, that is crazy. The power of lightning. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And the fact that it was caught on tape. And like I said on previous episode, there's some really cool footage. Like these cameras are catching things that they're actually changing science. Like that little wee meteorite that ended up kind of hitting this outside of a house door ring camera. And the scientists have been breaking this all down, and it's like they're saying this has advanced us like 100 years because we've actually got to see it and track it. And because it was a really good quality camera, they were able to zoom right in on it. And it had, I can't remember how many frames per second, but it was a really good quality door camera or whatever, security camera. And because of it, it's advanced science. So this here could very well be part of shaping some type of knowledge on maybe where lightning strikes or how it strikes or the power, or, it's... So keep those cameras going. And if you've got any really cool footage that you've got, hey man, you can email me at CanadianCitizenJournal@gmail.com. I'd love to have it on the show. Yeah. So I'm going to call that an episode, you guys. Like I said, I am working on another independent, Western independence video here. There's been a lot going on, especially since yesterday the APP have filed for that referendum. They have got a pile of signatures. They're ready for it. Saskatchewan, the media isn't doing you any justice. Again, like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully we can start to get numbers up just by bringing awareness, which I will be discussing on that episode. Until the next time, and I'll say it one more time, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you are, punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. You've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Stay informed.